Well, good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see you, and good morning to those who are joining us on Zoom. I'd like to start out today with some very special news. Peter and Betsy are here with us today, and it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to see you. It's great. It's really good. It's really good to look out there and see the two of you here. So what do I got? So this this lady came to see the priest, and she said, "Father, I just don't know what to do. I've bought this parakeet, and it is, it's supposed to keep me company. It's supposed to do all these wonderful things, but it only says one word, and it is a terrible, terrible word." And there from the bird cage issued this awful word, and the priest was so shocked. And the lady said, "Father, do you think you could perform an exorcism on this parrot?" The priest said, "Well, we don't really do that anymore, but I've got this other idea. In my office, I have got two parakeets, and they know all kinds of words, and they say prayers with their rosaries all day long. And I have a feeling if we put your parrot in with my two parrots, then she'll hear them saying these prayers, and she'll get a whole bunch of new ideas, and before you know it, she'll be praying too." She said, "Okay, well, let's try it." So they walked into the office, they put her bird in with his two birds, and they looked over, and they were there clicking their rosary beads. And her parrot immediately said the one word that she knew so well. And the priest's two parrots looked at each other and said, "Well, the rosary beads seem to have worked. At last, our prayers have been answered." Well, good morning. Welcome to this place which we make holy by our presence. These doors are open to all. We welcome diverse ideas of the source of life, diverse needs, diverse abilities. In this place, the ordinary is sanctified, the human is celebrated, and compassion is strength. Welcome to this place. Together, we make it a holy place. Please join me now for the words of the chalice lighting. They are printed inside of the leaflet. May the light we now kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal and not to harm, to help and not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of freedom. Now please stand if you are able for hymn 361. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter,
Our responsive reading today will be number 470. 470 in the back of the hymnal. We affirm the unfailing renewal of life, rising from the earth and reaching for the sun. All living creatures shall fulfill themselves. We affirm the steady growth of human companionship, rising from ancient cradles and reaching for the stars. People of the world over shall seek the ways of understanding. We affirm a continuing hope that out of every tragedy, the spirits of individuals shall rise to build a better world. This is the time when we share our joys and sorrows, those things that have been on our minds and in our hearts in this last week. I invite you to take a moment of silence and gather your thoughts and think about what you would like to share. And when you are ready, please come up and light a candle.
Both Betsy and I would like to acknowledge our great pleasure in being back with you today. It's hard for us to express how much we've missed you, how great it is to be back.
Well, I have a joy. I've had a rather busy weekend from Friday until last night. But my parents, my dad and my stepmother celebrated their 40th wedding anniversary. And we did that at the VFW yesterday in Wellsville. So it was fun. And it was nice seeing them at their age. My dad's 87, she's 86. And they were like dancing on the dance floor and everything. It was kind of cool.
Well, this is kind of a joy and sorrow, but first I must say, there is a sight for my sore, tired eyes, and they're sitting in the second pew. And now, since I'm always tired, I have to write everything down, even things that happened the night before. So I'm really tired of being tired. My radio woke me up around 1 a.m. to these words. I'm soaking my soul in gas and setting my heart on fire. Earlier in the evening, I was watching an episode of Sanctuary, a series about sanctuary for abnormals. Nikolai Tesla, a vampire now, had created wireless electricity. And all of a sudden, the electricity went out. So I ventured out in my nightgown and raincoat to see if it was just 6:39 or everywhere. Upon reflection, I realized I'm fitting right into this hood. It wasn't even raining. Now, a while back, I had mentioned to my doctor, Dr. Gorsline, that I had moved into UUC and all the hood tales. He's a bit of a joker. Did any of my folks suffer from insanity? He queried. I said, no, we all seem to enjoy it.
John asked me to announce the next item on the order of service today, which is the collection of our offering. I just didn't know how to exactly announce that properly, but I can call to your attention and ask you to focus on the idea that maybe this is appropriate for us to look at the fourth stanza of that song that we just sang, Rejoice and Come In. I think that's appropriate for the collection this morning. Don't be afraid of some change. With that said, let's see how much change we can make.
Spirit of life, come unto me. All the stirrings of compassion blow, and the wind rise in the sea, move in the land, giving life a shed of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
In this last week, I've been thinking about words, language. Where did it come from? And how does it shape our human experience? I assume that speech originated with gatherers, with women, and that the first words spoken by humans were probably, don't eat that. Meaning, this berry is poisonous. But these words can only work if you're with your daughter at the moment that she's foraging in that particular place. So it helped to be able to say something like, don't eat berry purple. And eventually, don't eat berry purple from stem spiky or whatever, to transmit a mental image of a poisonous plant, even when it's not around. And then it developed further. Maybe something like, don't eat berry purple, but if you dig a hole and bury some of those in there, dig it up 2 weeks later, you can rub that dizzy smelling juice on a wound and it'll keep the wound from getting infected. And then maybe it developed further into, don't eat with Jerome. He's a crummy hunter and you'll end up gathering to support him and 4 kids. Anyway, don't eat that. They're still saying it. You know, that's about 60% of your discourse in the first 5 years of motherhood. Your master's degree gets saggy while you say for the zillionth time, don't eat that. And I assume that basic literacy began with hunters. Like, I see rabbit tracks. If I keep reading this story, it'll end with a rabbit. Oh, but now that I've been following the plot line, I see panther tracks next to the rabbit tracks. So I see where the narrative is headed. I better go find some other storyline to read. That was reading. And then came writing, which probably began with something that looked like a football coach's chalkboard, except it was a stick and some dirt. We'll hunt the mammoth better together. You, the X, go this way and frighten it. You, the other X, go that way and get ahead to slow it down. And these X's here are us, ready to push rocks off this wavy line cliff and kill it. Then people started going into caves to write instruction manuals. A track that looks like this will lead you to an animal that looks like that. When it raises its hind leg like this, it means you've got an extra 20 seconds to aim your arrow. Words, spoken or written, are abstract symbols to transmit information or emotion from one mind to another. They don't seem abstract to us because we're immersed in words from the start of our lives. But we are occasionally reminded how abstract speech really is when we overhear a conversation in another language. And it's all just garbled nonsense. And yet you can see for the people who are communicating, they are communicating deeply using symbols. The development of speech can be considered the primal distinction between humans and other animals. Storytelling, stringing bits of information together to reconstruct the past, align a trajectory with the present, and deduce the future. This is what makes us human. Of all creatures, we're the only ones who engage in marketing. They bought this, now they're buying this, next season they'll buy this. It's what makes us the religious animal. They bought this, now they'll buy this, soon they'll buy anything. Constructing a narrative by selectively stringing bits of information together can make the human a distinctly optimistic animal or a pessimist. Like, there was no toy in my breakfast cereal box, thus I conclude that it shall be a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. As far as I know, we're the only creatures who do optimism and pessimism, although further study might be needed. My sister-in-law's cat urinates on her collection of shoes, apparently for emotional reasons. She is optimistic that the cat suffers from a temporary bout of pessimism. My inner pessimist tells me they'll need to increase their footwear budget. Storytelling, narrative construction, situating our present moment in relation to the past and future. This makes us distinctly human, whether we share our stories in English, Mandarin, or sign language. And when I ask my college students at what point prehistory ends and history begins, they'll generally point to the advent of the written word. This is when people begin to speak to unseen audiences, even unborn audiences, readers who will exist in the future. For example, Socrates was known for his witty conversation, but his student, Plato, deemed that Socrates' distinctive proverbs and zingers contained universal truths that would inspire future generations of critical thinkers. Jesus spoke to a crowd on a hillside, and villagers chatted about it for 40 years before someone decided that it should be preserved in text. The written word brings us into history, and the printed word ushers us into modernity. The printing press, what could be called mass media. Martin Luther's handwritten letter got stamped into a pamphlet, run off 1,000 times, and the whole world of medievalism got rocked into the Renaissance. William Shakespeare jazzed up his plays with novelty words, some imported from other languages, some that apparently he just made up. Scholars count 1,700 words that Shakespeare introduced into the English language. This expanded vocabulary enabled him to create unique characters and also enhanced our range of expressing the breadth and the depth of our own emotions. In the centuries of invasion and colonialism, as European explorers encountered indigenous peoples, literacy was used as a sign of cultural superiority and even as a measure of humanity. Cultures who transmitted their knowledge orally were labeled subhuman, and lacking land deeds and written contracts were often chased from their traditional homes. Lakota author Luther Standing Bear observed, "The written word became established as a criterion of the superior man, a symbol of emotional fineness. The man who could write his name on a piece of paper, whether or not he possessed the spiritual fineness to honor those words in speech, was by some miraculous formula a more highly developed and sensitized person than the one who had never had a pen in hand, but whose spoken word was inviolable and whose sense of honor and truth was paramount. With false reasoning was the quality of human character measured by man's ability to make with an implement a mark upon paper." Standing Bear then asks, is not humanness a matter of heart and mind? And is it not evident in the form of relationship with other people? In the 21st century, literacy is still an obvious gateway to success, or certainly illiteracy is an obstacle. And statistics show that people with larger vocabularies tend to have greater career prospects, social mobility, and earning potential. Our ability to learn nerdy words is directly related to our situation from the age of 13 to 18, the time in which our minds are most absorbent and impressionable. There are questions of class and location. How large were your parents' vocabularies? Do your parents model a pleasurable conversational tango, or do they use sharp, hard words as rocks to throw at each other? Do they hold and discuss books in a way that makes the object seem magical, inspiring the child to seek entrance into this arcane, enchanted world? But we got to remember, most of our vocabulary building happens in our teenage years. And there are far more important questions on a teenager's mind. Does having a larger vocabulary make it easier for me to make friends, dodge bullies, and kiss girls or boys, whoever you want to kiss? Another question, what ratio of nerdy words and dirty words will be the most helpful in this? Another question, must I develop two separate but overlapping vocabularies, one for the curbside and one for school and work? Yes, there are certain jobs in which a curbside vocabulary is fine. But unless you become a hip hop star or world famous comedian, most of those jobs are in the kitchen or the garbage truck. Another question, do I want to be the only kid in the hood who speaks with a suburban vocabulary? How much time do I want to spend in the school nurse's office? Or do I want to be the kid in the suburbs who speaks with the hood vocabulary? How much time do I want to spend in a folding chair in front of the principal's office? I doubt that teenagers are formulating these questions in this way. And I doubt that they are thinking about how developing a larger vocabulary in their formative years will affect their career prospects. I suspect that many teenagers envision themselves attaining celebrity or dying young. That might sound a bit pessimistic, but every one of us here who survived the teenage years has got a lot to be grateful for. Another question I don't think modern teenagers are obsessing over, though maybe they should, is what's the benefit of learning old-timey words that you'll only ever encounter in old books? What's the use of learning words that your peers are unlikely to recognize? But I worry when nerdy words disappear, when I have to stop in the middle of a college lesson to define a word like vagabond or etymology. I worry that big words in assigned readings will alienate young readers and convince them that they are not invited to the intergenerational intellectual discourse. Or that big words will just make them feel like all texts from before the 21st century are obsolete. The English language changes over time. It's constantly evolving and also devolving with ugly words like convo and FOMO. Vocabulary changes, but the big, meaningful questions of life do not. Keeping old words and old texts alive helps us to maintain our connection with the thinkers of the past, to pick up where they left off, to continue exploring the big questions with subtlety and nuance, and to continue to articulate what we find in our journey. Because we want to express more to the next generation than just, you go here, you go there. We want to be able to teach our children more than just, don't eat that. We'll want to share the findings of our queries and encourage curiosity for further exploration. And for that, we're going to need some nerdy words. Thank you. Please stand if you are able for hymn 131.
Love
Will guide us, peace inside us, hope will guide us, will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Sing like the angels. If you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us, peace has tread us, up inside us, will lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard.
Well, I'm excited to announce that we I'm excited to announce that this afternoon we will continue with our exploration of English fairy lore in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. So I think that will be really exciting. And apparently our service is going to end a little bit early today. So why don't we meet back here at 10 after 12? And we'll start then for that. Do we have any other announcements today?
Just a reminder that we have a board meeting afterwards, and there's still some sign up room for people who want to do the summer services.
Together, we have sanctified this space. If you have found strength and comfort here, share some of it out there. They need it. Remember that you are blessed and you are a blessing, and you are not alone. Please join me for the words of extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, warmth of community, fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I think that today may be the appropriate day to try to do this. There are two songs that I simply can't sing because they make me cry. Now, I may not be able to get through this just because I might start laughing. But just to set it up, this is a work of brilliance by the anonymous lyricist, unless they might want to take a bow. Equally so, the arranged rearrangement of a rearrangement of the arranger, or perhaps deranged, entitled The Hymn Tribute to Him, O Fuss, 347. Now, in the words of the lyricist, it's very universally universalist. And I said, well, until better establishment of the multi and metaverse. We are the world from ages past. Glory, hallelujah. That brings the meaning of our times. There is more love somewhere. A song complete to hearts and minds. Glory, hallelujah. The motion of the earth refines. There is more love somewhere. In open sense, we find our way, a song to sing, a verse to find, our voices raised in every line. Glory, hallelujah. There is more love somewhere. The answer to the open sky, through all the earth, our song remains a measure of all space and time. A thought goes out in every way, resounding through each place we find. Glory, 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 hallelujah. And gather the peanuts, harvest the glory, hallelujah. Mr. Lisk, would you like to take a bow?